17 weeks away from the start of the first 17-game regular season in NFL history. Reigning Super Bowl champion Bucs will host the Cowboys to open the season on September 9th. Marks the return of Dak Prescott against seven-time Super Bowl champ Tom Brady. Prescott missed the final 11 games of the 2020 season after suffering a season-ending ankle injury in Week 5. Tom Brady 5-0 in his career against Dallas. Bucs are a 6.5-point home favorite on opening night. As we take a look at the notable Week 1 games in the NFL, Browns and Chiefs in a nice little rematch of last year's divisional game. Chiefs are a 6-point favorite. Sunday night game features the Rams hosting the Bears. LA a 7-point home favorite. Ravens and Raiders on Monday night. Baltimore a 4.5-point road favorite in Vegas. All right, let's welcome in CBS Sports NFL insider Jonathan Jones here to break down his top 5 regular season games on the 2021 schedule. We'll start with number 5. Jonathan, where are you taking us?
Listen, I could go with the Green Bay Packers, but we don't know about Aaron Rodgers. That Week 9 game against the Chiefs, not going to talk about it. I could go Week 13, Broncos Chiefs. We're not dealing with Aaron Rodgers in this one. So my number 5, just to go ahead and lay that out up front, because I want to give some different flavor here, okay? Call me the spice rack. I am going with Week 14. It is Dallas at Washington. It's that NFC East battle between those two teams. And we're going to see Dak Prescott go up against hopefully good Ryan Fitzpatrick and a Washington team that, of course, is the reigning NFC East champion. So I'm looking at that game and I'm saying, listen, for Washington, it's the first of what's ultimately going to be 5 consecutive NFC East games to end the season. And, you know, for Dallas, obviously, this is a time of the year where Dan Quinn, the new defensive coordinator, should have that defense humming by that point. And also, Dallas, they're coming off a Thursday night game with the Saints the week before, so they're going to be coming off of a little bit of rest. And we know about Washington's defense. We know that Washington swept Dallas last year, but both those games were played with Andy Dalton at quarterback. But interestingly enough, I think that this is going to be one of those games that could help decide what's going to happen in the NFC East. Very obviously, and no team has won back-to-back since the Eagles in 2004 in terms of that division. So Washington trying to become the first team since Philadelphia in 2004 to go back-to-back in the NFC East. Again, just hoping we're getting a good Ryan Fitzpatrick in this one.
Now, that game not in primetime, but the Cowboys are one of 10 teams with 5 primetime games on the schedule. Jonathan, your 4th best game on the slate is what?
This is a game that I always look forward to every single year. It's San Francisco and Seattle. And I decided to go, obviously they play twice in the season. I went with the Week 13 game, the one that's going to be at Seattle. And look, ever since Seattle drafted Russell Wilson, the Seahawks have owned the San Francisco 49ers. They're 15-4 since 2012 against the 49ers. But you go back to 2018, they split. You go back to 2019, they split in that season too. And last year, San Francisco had all those injuries. Seattle won both. Okay, whatever. Seattle's at a slight travel and rest disadvantage because they're coming off a Week 12 game at Washington on Monday Night Football. But at least this is going to be a home game for them. Usually around this time of the year, late November, early December, that's when the Russell Wilson for MVP campaign is made or broken. Well, it's usually broken. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for because Russell, obviously, planning his escape from Seattle, should have them in very good position to make the playoffs. And hopefully, he'll have that Russ for MVP train going and continuing at that point. And you know, that late in the season, is it going to be Jimmy Garoppolo? Is he still going to be healthy as he struggled with the last couple of years? Or will they have handed the reins over to Trey Lance at that point? So a lot of storylines there, but obviously in the NFC West, really any of those 4 teams could be there at the top. You know, I could look at the Rams. I could look, obviously, at the Seahawks and the 49ers. But I wanted to focus on this one just because it's so late in the year, because it's in Seattle. We should have 100% packed crowd in Seattle, as loud as whatever they're calling that stadium these days. I'm very excited for that one.
Yeah, you could argue that the NFC West is the best division in football right now. You can make the argument that 3 teams will be in the playoffs this coming season. Time now for your top 3 games on the schedule. What are you eyeing as your 3rd best regular season game?
Okay, so anyone who was watching this when we were talking about top 5 games, you knew which one was going to be in there for certain. You knew that it was going to be week 4, and it was going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up to New England to face the Patriots. I have this at 3 because it's probably not going to be the best game of the year, at least what I can justifiably say right now. And so that's why it's at 3 and number 1. I am salivating, though, at this game. And really, what more needs to be said? We see it right there. We know that it's the GOAT versus the GOAT. We know this is probably going to be the only time that it's going to happen. And Tom Brady Sr. even called up a Boston radio station earlier on Thursday to talk some light trash talk. He said, it's the 4th game of the season, so I'm looking forward to going 4-0, he said about his Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, the Bucs looking to go for 2, and then we all know what this game means. And we're going to hear the talk that week that, hey, it's just another game, and they're the opponent. And we're going to hear from Tom Brady, oh gosh, guys, I don't want to talk about it. I get the questions, but it's just another game. We all know that it's not just another game. We know what it's going to mean for Tom Brady, what it's going to mean for Bill Belichick, what it's going to mean for all of New England, what it's going to mean for us talking about it that week and the week after and the years after as we debate GOATs and everything else that we all talk about in this sports talk. So I'm pumped for it, and I can tell you what, Hakeem, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be doing on week 4. I'm going to be on that other pregame show from 8 to noon on CBS Sports Network, and then I'm going to hop on a plane somewhere, and I'm going to go to Providence, Rhode Island, and I'm going to hop in a rental car, and I'm going to drive to Gillette Stadium, and I'm going to be on the sideline that night reporting for this game for CBS Sports HQ. Our bosses don't yet know that, but I'm telling them that that's what I'm doing. I don't know if we have, clearance from the NFL yet about COVID protocols. I still haven't gotten my credential application in to the Patriots PR staff. But if they're watching right now, consider this my credential application.
There you go. I like that. Also, I forgot for a moment who I was talking to. I thought it was Bill Belichick there for a moment. Because that impression was spot on, Jonathan. I mean, come on. You might need to start your own TikTok video with that. I mean, that was pretty darn good. Next time, come out. Look, I love the zip-up fleece. That's a cozy fleece. I wear it myself. It's nice. But next time you come out and do a segment, we need the cut-off hoodie. That would be good as well.
Oh, you're right.
That for next time. That's when it's week 4 wall-to-wall coverage Brady Belichick talk. They won 6 Super Bowls and 20 seasons together. All right, where are you taking us for your second best game on the schedule?
Well, you're going to like this one. I know you're going to like this one. I am eyeing Week 12, Cleveland at Baltimore. And we know that in Week 13 that there's a bye there for the Browns. They play the Ravens in consecutive games. I went with the first one because it's the first one. Because that's going to be the best one in my opinion. You look at the Ravens' schedule, and not only do they play the Browns in Week 12 and in Week 14, but they also have the Steelers in Week 13. So, you got the Browns coming off a bye. You got the Ravens coming off against the Steelers. So that's the one I'm looking at is the first one. And since Baker got to Cleveland, they've won 2 out of 6 against Baltimore. They lost both last year, including the potty game for Lamar. And that was huge for Baltimore to get into the playoffs. So this is the first time they're meeting since then. And I think that these two are the class of the AFC North. I look at Cleveland's defense, and I look at Jadeveon Clowney across from Myles Garrett, who may be chasing after a sack record at that point. I look at Greg Newsome back there at corner. I look at Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah at linebacker, who should be getting plenty of burn at that point. And then Baltimore's offense with Sammy Watkins. And you look at their offensive line. Ronnie Stanley's going to be back from injury. And Kevin Zeitler has been an addition there. And Alejandro Villanueva is there as well. So I am so pumped for this game. I'm happy that the schedule makers decided to put 2 in a 3-week span. And for the Cleveland Browns, of course, back-to-back with that bye sandwiched in between. That's fantastic. So I can't wait for this one. Cleveland and Baltimore, that's my number 2.
Yeah, they did that last year to the Steelers, right? Remember, they beat the Steelers in the final week of the season, then beat them in the playoffs. 2 for 2 there. I'm surprised you didn't go with Browns-Chiefs in week 1.
Listen, we're all excited. All of us at CBS are pumped for Browns Chiefs in week 1, but I had to pick a Browns game. I had to pick a Chiefs game. I promised you at the beginning of this that we were going to have a lot of different flavors, okay? I was bringing some flavor to your ear. I was a spice rack, so I couldn't just give you 2 Browns games and 2 Chiefs games. I had to choose, and I gave you 1 Browns, and I'm ultimately about to give you 1 Chiefs game.
Okay, so here it is, your number 1 game on the schedule. What's your tippy-top matchup in 2021?
Well, I mean, you have to include Patrick Mahomes in any of your top matchups. And that is with all due respect to Tom Brady and the Super Bowl champions. That's with all due respect to that Week 4 matchup against the New England Patriots. But it's Bills at Chiefs. And I think that these 2 teams, until someone unseats them, they're the best 2 teams in the AFC. Doesn't mean that Cleveland can't get there. Before you try to check me, doesn't mean they can't get there. But we loved watching these 2 teams last season. And we remember in the middle of the regular season they played, and Buffalo let them run all over them, almost had to play the turnover to get in position to take the lead. And then we saw them in the AFC title game, of course, where Patrick Mahomes comes back from being in the concussion protocol and says, you know what, I'm not going to let you guys get within a possession in the entire second half. So I'm excited because Buffalo realized how they're going to have to catch the Kansas City Chiefs, and that is an enhanced pass rush. Yeah, okay, they have Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, but what did they do in the first and the second round? They went after Greg Rousseau late in the first round, and then they got Carlos Boogie Basham out of Wake Forest in the second round. 2 fantastic edge rushers who will be helping Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison in 2021 and will ultimately take over their stead moving forward when they become a little too pricey or too old in their veteran age. And then they're going up against, of course, a reworked Kansas City offensive line. We know about the trade that Brett Veach, the GM, did to get Orlando Brown there. We know about them making Joe Thuney the highest paid guard in NFL history. We know that they signed my guy Kyle Long out of retirement. And so I'm excited and interested to see what happens on the right side of that offensive line. But you talk about consistency and continuity. Look at those 2 teams. Look at what Buffalo essentially is. They kept so much of their team together. We all thought Matt Milano was going to leave in free agency. He signed a very team-friendly deal in order to stay, and really they just traded out John Brown for Emmanuel Sanders. And then you look at Kansas City. Of course, they reworked that offensive line, and they lost Sammy Watkins, but so much of the team that we have come to know over their incredible run these last couple years is still remaining intact, and they add Nick Bolton there to the middle of their defense. I'm so pumped for this one. I think that this is the best pure football game, if we're talking right now in early to mid-May, about what's going to deliver the best football out of the 200, and I'd say 256 games, but now we've added a 17th game, and I don't know what that math is. But I would say that this is going to offer, right now, the best football that I can guarantee as we sit here in early to mid-May.
119 days away from the start of the 2021 NFL season, Jonathan Spice Rack Jones with his top 5 games in 2021. That's going to be his new nickname, Spice Rack. He gave it to himself, and I kind of like it. I kind of like this, too. Here's a look at the Week 1 games on CBS. 7 games in all, including several nice storylines. Jets visit the Panthers. Sam Darnold facing the quarterback. They replace him in New York as the number 2 overall pick, Zach Wilson, set to make his NFL debut. And we mentioned Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs hosting Baker and the Browns in a rematch of last year's divisional game. You can watch on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.